All right, guys, welcome back to the Let's Talk Ball podcast. It's your host, Tochi, and I'm here with Spain. And we're here to talk about the group stages of the Euros and look forward to the knockout stages. And to get us started, I just want to talk through what kind of has happened over the last week or so of games and talk about how the groups ended up and where we're at now. So, running from the top, I'm going to start with Group A. In Group A, we saw Germany advance as well as Switzerland. And Hungary and Scotland were eliminated. Special shouts out from this group. I think Germany had that late tying goal, which was really exciting to see. Shout out to Niclas Fullkrug. That is something that I shouted out in the last video that we did, or the last podcast that we did. And then moving on to Group B, we've got Spain topping the group, Italy going through with an amazing late goal against Croatia as well. My heart breaks for Luka Modric. He works so hard, and Croatia seems to have that grit in them where they are able to just kind of like grind out results like that. And you thought maybe they could do it, but Italy and Calafiori, the new guy on the block, sets up a beautiful goal, and Croatia unfortunately gets knocked out of the Euros. Italy moves on to the next round.
Good run for Luka Modric. I think probably the last tournament, I'd like to say, but yeah, it wasn't. Big respect to Luka Modric. He'll be missed on the international stage. And quick shout out to Spain for winning all three of their matches. The only team to do that throughout the group stages to get all 9 points, with a clearly second team played against, win all three games, and to not get conceded on. This was impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I think Spain has been one of the most surprising teams out of the first group stages of the first group stage games. I think seeing the way that they were able to field a second string team and still pretty much dominate the game should put a lot of teams on alert. It seems like they've got a lot of good depth on their team, and we'll see if it can carry over into the knockout stages. Moving on to Group C. So we've got England, Denmark, Slovenia, Serbia, and England, Denmark, and Slovenia have advanced to the knockout stages. Not too much of note from this group. A little bit disappointing because coming in, I thought Denmark were going to look a little bit stronger than they have, and then England especially were my favorite coming into the tournament, and they've looked stale yet again. We'll touch on this again at the end of this when we talk about our big takeaways from the group stage, but that is something I want to call out here. Let's go on to Group D. In Group D, we've got Austria, France, Netherlands, and Poland. The top three from this group also advanced. The big news here being Austria finished first in the group, which I think is a shock to everyone coming into the tournament. I definitely underrated them, but Ralf Rangnick, shout out to him. He turned down the Bayern job so that he could stick with Austria and stick with the work that he's been making. And I think he's put the world on notice to see like just how good of a coach he can be. I think Austria looks super well drilled. You usually don't see super tactically sound teams, I think, in some of these international tournaments just because of how little game time you get together. And Austria has looked both exciting and well drilled. So they've been a really fun watch compared to a team like France, who I think everyone touted as potential winners and teams that were a team that was going to definitely come out on top in this group. And it looks like they've struggled a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Netherlands coming in third, still advancing thanks to the new format of the tournament this year. And I think they've been okay, Netherlands. We'll see how they do the next round. Tough draw. Actually, no, they've had a good draw. But yeah, them finishing third, moving on. I would say lucky, but to finish third, so move on, did fine. They did enough to move on, I think. Expected more from them, I guess.
I have also expected more for them, but I will say shout out to them and Austria for one of my games of the group stage. It was a 3-2 thriller. I feel like it was going back and forth. You never really knew how it was going to end, and so I will say that was one of the games that really stuck out to me from this group stages. Moving on to Group E, we got two more to run through. Group E was a really interesting one. Coming into the day, we're recording on Wednesday. Coming into the day, all four teams were on 3 points. And I think that's the first time that's happened in the Euros.
Yeah, it is a shame for Ukraine. For all four teams to finish on 4 points is really crazy. It honestly looked like the games today they wanted the team, or a lot of the teams wanted to draw. It looked like Belgium was settling for the draw. Ukraine obviously wanted to win, but Belgium looked like they had no desire to win that game at all. Late in the game, they were sitting everyone back, They were even like 15 minutes left. It's
Yeah,
shame for Ukraine, and Belgium's looked really bad. Other than De Bruyne, I thought Lukaku. I like the man,
yeah,
but he just cannot score. It's kind of comical. I feel bad for him, but a little comical.
yeah. I really do feel bad for him as well. I'm rooting for him. Like at first it was funny, but now it's just kind of sad. I'm like, buddy, like I really hope you can figure this out because you're getting killed online. You're getting killed in the group message. Like for your sake, I want to see the ball go in the back of the net.
Agreed.
And last group we have to cover here, and then we'll talk about some of our bigger takeaways. Is Group F that had Porky, Portugal, Turkey. That's funny. They had Portugal, Porky.
Oh.
That's
Oh.
my bad.
Ooh. All right.
Okay, Group F had Portugal and Turkey, or Turkey as they are now, and Georgia and Czechoslovakia or Czechia. Um, This was a really interesting group because coming into the final day, Portugal could lose in advance, which they ended up doing. They lost to Georgia, which was, I believe, the biggest upset in Euros history. I think even with a second string lineup, I expected Portugal to handle Georgia handedly, and they did not, which is really disappointing for my pockets. I had a Portugal future or a Portugal parlay, and they are the only leg that did not hit. So I'm a little bit jaded by that, but good for Georgia, good for Kvaratskhelia. I think he's a player that has been going through a little bit of a rough time at Napoli, so having a moment like this is really good for him.
Speaking of Kvaratskhelia, outside the Euros, there's a lot of drama. Looks like going on whether he's going to leave Napoli or not. Looks like Antonio Conte said he put a veto on him leaving. Kvaratskhelia and his dad, his agent, are all saying that he wants to leave. So there's a lot
Hmm.
going on there for him. So good for him to be able to focus and score and help get his team, his nation to progress. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens off the pitch in terms of his club football.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something I've been keeping an eye on. But like I said, that puts a wrap on the group stages. Let's talk about some of our biggest takeaways from the group stages, some of our biggest stories. For me personally, I think one of my biggest takeaways is that England has still been disappointing through 3 games. The first 2 games that I saw, I kind of was like, all right, like they're still figuring it out. They've got the Trent in midfield experiment going on. But by the third game, I think things might start to click. And in my opinion, until they made the subs at the end of the game, it really didn't click for me. And I think some of the things that have been obvious tactical flaws, in my opinion, have still kind of belabored them and helped them not help them perform to the best of their ability. Like for one, I think a big problem is still that left hand side. Trippier at left back as a right footer, and then Phil Foden as a left wing just does not work, in my opinion. I think they need to start Anthony Gordon in the group stages. I think Anthony Gordon came on and he was positive, and he made an impact off the bench. Nothing too crazy, but he had a nice ball where he received on the left wing, kind of drove inside, broke a couple lines where he found Kobbie Mainoo, and Kobbie Mainoo flicked it to Harry Kane. Harry Kane then moves it on to Cole Palmer, and Cole Palmer almost finishes. And it was a move like that that England has been missing from their team. And I think having a runner like Anthony Gordon, although he didn't stretch and go in behind with that play, definitely helps the England team. The England team's balance a lot more. And another issue that I see is that they have too many players that want the ball to feet. I kind of touched on this again. They need a runner, but they have Phil Foden, Jude Bellingham, Cole Palmer, even Bukayo Saka can kind of do both. Harry Kane likes the ball to feet as well. They don't have anyone that is stretching the defense and occupying the back line, creating more space in the middle. And I think that's what they need more of. I promise you, you throw Anthony Gordon on the pitch or someone that's going to be more of a threat in behind, give the defense more to think about. And I think their offense will open up. I didn't like the Conor Gallagher start. I think Southgate was trying to protect some of the younger players, which I do understand. He figured England was probably through. No need to switch it up too much or put too much attention on somebody. But I think in order to operate optimally, In my opinion, Gallagher needs to go to the bench, and either Kabi Manu or Adam Ward needs to start in that midfield. Gordon needs to start on the left, and that means one of Jude or Phil Foden needs to start in the 10. And my pick would be Jude Bellingham. I don't see England benching their poster boy. But we shall see. It's Southgate's job to manage the team, not mine. Those are my suggestions, but we'll see how it goes.
Hmm. Yeah, England has still been really disappointed. So echo a lot of the thoughts you were saying. When Palmer came on, he was definitely the difference maker. He looked really good, I thought. He was
Mm-hmm.
really direct and always passing forward, um, willing to take a defender on one. And he made one really good kind of diagonal pass in the box, either to Saka or Mainu. Must have been to Manu because I
Yeah,
think
I think it
Saka
was
was off at
Manu.
that point.
And
Yeah, when Cole Palmer came on for Saka, he looked really good. Saka is my boy, but he looks a little stagnant, and like you said, he can get in behind, but the way England are playing, he's not getting in behind enough, and he does want it to feed a lot. So I think it's just not working. But I wanted to get your opinion, Tochi, on this. So Ian Wright's take was that
saw this.
Saka should be playing left back, and Cole Palmer should be playing at right back. So, what is your take on that?
Yeah, that is a really interesting one. And I think could it work? It could. If you want Saka doing a lot of defensive work, like he came up as a left back. So, or he played a little bit of left back in his time at Arsenal when he was younger. So, like, he's got the experience. But I think testing that big of an experiment in a major tournament, especially in a knockout round game, I don't love that just because I think you want a defender in that position in case there's points in the game where you're getting pinned back. I don't, not that like Trippier is doing anything too much better, but I think one thing to remember is I think the plan has always been for Luke Shaw to come back and play in the knockout stages. I know he just did it. I think he did his first full round of training before the last game. But I think the idea is that Luke Shaw is going to come back and take the majority of minutes there. Maybe if you're trying to play a more attacking game, like say against a team like Slovakia, you could try test that out. But I do think it is going to be really difficult to figure out how to get Cole Palmer minutes and as well as Saka. I think that's part of the consequence of Southgate choosing multiple players that want to play in the same position. So that'll be really interesting. I see where Ian Wright is coming from, but I don't think I love that. I think you got to make a choice and either play one or the other. I don't think you displace Saka and put him at left back for me personally. But I do think that's a creative option, and I understand the need to want to get someone like Cole Palmer in the game with how good he looked in his cameo.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is too late and too risky to try and go for that in the group stage. Maybe you go for that late in the game. Like instead of bringing Saka
Mm-hmm.
off, you could move him. If you're looking for a goal and you got the opposition pinned back, you can take off Trippier, put Saka in to give you more of that width and that net, on the left side. But yeah, not worth it. But
Mm-hmm.
thought it was an interesting take, so wanted to hear what you thought of that one.
Yeah, no, I do love the creativity. I think the best and easiest way to fix that left side, I'm telling you, is throw Anthony Gordon in there. I know it's not a popular pick because he's not one of these superstar names like Foden, Saka, Cole Palmer, but I do think he's someone that will put in a shift and he's going to give the defense a little bit more to think about.
Hmm. And I also, one thing with Southgate's substitutions, he's being really inconsistent with who he's bringing on in each of the games. I think that kind of goes
Mm-hmm.
into him still not really knowing his tactics and still not really knowing his game plan as a whole for England. I think he should have, that could be argued, but I do think you would be kind of more consistent with who you're bringing on if you had your whole tactics figured out in a really set game plan. I think he's just still figuring it out, which he should have done by now in qualifying.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely has not filled, or Southgate has not filled me with a lot of confidence in how he's operated. I think he, more than anyone else, understands that things need to change. I hope he's learned a lot of lessons and he go into the knockout stages. He kind of has an idea of a better idea of what he wants to do. I think he knows, the players know, and every fan watching knows that he can't just go at it the same way and hope things click. There's definitely going to need to be changes made. So we shall see how that goes in the first round. And I think lucky for them, they've got one of the easier opponents / easier sides of the bracket, so it might be a little bit more forgiving for them as well. Nice. I know you had mentioned France and their struggles. Did you want to speak about that?
Yeah, France did not win their group. They came second to Austria, which was
Mm-hmm.
shocking. I thought they easily would have won their group. I'm not that surprised at how France has been playing in the World Cup. In the last World Cup, they grinded out results and they weren't really blowing teams away throughout the whole tournament. Even though they made the World Cup final, a similar thing happened in the previous Euros as well, but they just cannot score right now. They're creating enough chances and they're looking fine. They're controlling games for the most part, but in this last game, I think I finally decided that it looked a little worrying, and that they weren't just as strong as I thought they were going to be coming to the tournament. So when it comes time to make
Yeah.
the predictions for the knockout stage, I'm not going to be as high on France as I was coming in.
Yeah, I agree. I think I liked what you said about this last game was the one that really kind of was like, oh, maybe there is something wrong. Like the first two games, I think same with England. You can like look at them and be like, oh, there's it's early in the tournament, they're working the kinks out. But then by the third game, both teams kind of worried me a little bit to think like, there might be some bigger issues here that might actually affect them once the knockout stages come around. But I think one thing I notice if I want to play devil's advocate, in terms of expected goals conceded and like chances conceded, France and England are still top three when it comes to that metric. So as much as they're not able to score and really kill teams off, it's not like they're conceding a whole lot of big chances either, which I think is really important for a tournament like this.
Hmm.
So as much as they haven't impressed, I think it's almost like all they have to do is figure out how to get some goals and they're going to be in a really good spot, which for me is why I think England has a really good chance. That combined with them being on a weaker side of the bracket, I do think I see them going farther, but I'm jumping ahead to knockout stage predictions at this point. um, let's see, I did also want to touch on some of our takes from the last conversation that we had as well. Did you have anything left on France?
No, that was just a good last point you made. France didn't concede. The only goal they conceded was that penalty kick, which was a dumb foul given away. Shout out to Swiderski who drew the penalty though. He used to play for Charlotte FC
Yeah,
for 2 years. So shout out to Swiderski. Shout out Charlotte
yeah,
FC.
that was.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. Okay, yeah. So touching on our calls from the last one, we talked about some of like who we think might win the tournament, as well as some players to watch and things like that. And so I want to touch on my Fullkrug take, saying that he's a player to watch. Um, I think he scored in the first game. Second game, he made an impact, but not quite too much. And then third game, again, he comes on as a super sub and saves the day for Germany at the end, ends up getting that late tying goal. And again, I think I will reiterate this. I think if you aren't familiar with the Niclas Fullkrug's game, you should get familiar. He's an older striker, so it's not like he's some young up and coming player. But I think in terms of players that have impressed me over the last like 6 months of watching them, Niclas Fullkrug might be like top three, if not number one on the list. Like just in terms of like every time I watch him, I'm just kind of like, wow, this guy's a baller. And I think he continues to prove it, and I think he will continue to prove it. I'm convinced that he's going to score some important goals for Germany, and I think it's going to get to the point where it might even be a bit of a decision for Nagelsmann to make between whether he wants to start Kai Havertz or Niclas Fullkrug at the striker position.
Mhm. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough decision. I could easily see Fulkrug getting the start over Havertz going forward. Even
Yeah.
though I think Havertz has looked good,
No.
he just hasn't been scoring.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. No shade to Havertz because he's still playing really well. Like he's still creating chances, assisting, scoring. Like he's still doing his thing as well. I think it's just that Fulkrug is also playing well. So depending on what kind of style of striker that they need for the game, I think it's at least going to be a discussion, which I think a lot of people might not have expected.
Nice. Yeah, my call from the last episode that I want to bring up is my Switzerland dark horse call. I thought Switzerland have looked really strong throughout this tournament so far. They almost beat Germany in the third game to win the group, but honestly, thankfully they didn't because they got a much easier draw coming in second. So and Granit Xhaka and Remo Freuler in the midfield have looked really good together. Shaqiri scored some
Hmm.
crazy goals, whether he started or come off the bench. And I think Switzerland still have a really good chance of going far in this tournament. So I'm happy with my call of Switzerland being a dark horse to make it far.
Yeah, that's a great call. And Xhaka, I mean, he's just a boss. He's been bossing at Leverkusen all season, then continued that form into the tournament. And then Shaqiri is like the ultimate just tournament player between like Euros, World Cups, you name it. Like that guy's going to score a big goal. And so I think that was awesome to see. Shout out to Michael Sturridge for calling that before the game, where he had that beautiful, I think, I forget who gave it away, but Shaqiri picks it up near the top of the box and just puts a beautiful curler top left. That's just a fun team, like you said, and I'm interested to see what they can do in the knockout stages. It's going to be a big matchup between them and Italy in the first round.
Yeah, yeah, Shaqiri, he hit it first time too, running onto it first time to hit it like that from outside the box, sliding in that tight window in the top left corner was a crazy finish. And insane stat, the only player to score in the last three World Cups and the last three Euros.
There you go. I mean, that's what he
Insane.
does. But I think that's enough talk about the group stages. Let's wrap that up and talk about the knockout rounds. So, here, I think I wanted to just run through our first round predictions, take a look at each game, kind of give our thoughts there. And then once we're done with that, kind of revisit some updated predictions for who we think is going to be the winner of the tournament, discuss our dark horses again from the knockout stages, and then touch on best player, young player, golden boot, and players to watch out for.
All right, running through the first round of the knockout stage, we're going to pick all of our winners real quick, and then we'll update the next podcast, the next rounds. But for Spain versus Georgia, I think Spain's going to win this game pretty handily. Georgia's great that they're in it, but Spain has looked really strong. I expect Spain to win this easily. Germany, Denmark. I think Germany's also looked really, really strong this tournament. I think they've looked probably the second best, in my opinion, this tournament. So it's really unfortunate that Spain and Germany are in that quadrant together. I think Germany's going to beat Denmark, and it's going to be the best next round game between Spain and Germany, between, I think, the two best teams of the tournament so far. Portugal and Slovenia down the bottom. Portugal should win this. I've loved that Slovenia's made it this far. I like Sesko a lot, but Portugal have looked really good. So I picked them to move on. France, Belgium. While France hasn't looked great, I think they still got the talent. And like you mentioned earlier, Tochi, their defense has been super strong. Belgium's looked even worse, way worse than France, in my opinion. So I expect France to
Mm-hmm.
win a low scoring game. Romania versus Netherlands. This is a tight game. I expect Netherlands to win just based off their talent. But Romania scored some crazy goals in the first round, so we'll see. But I pick Netherlands to win. Austria, Turkey. Austria, I think, should win this, but I think it could be a really good game. The way Austria
Mm-hmm.
has played with their tactical setup with Ragnick, I expect Austria to win this, but I think this could be a really exciting game. Turkey has a lot of fight in them and some really quality players. Yildiz
Mm-hmm.
was looking great on the wing today. Um, Çalhanoğlu is still a phenomenal player, really great ball
Yeah, he's been a
striker.
dog.
As was mentioned in today's game, that goal he scored, the outside the foot, like drilled shot was
Yeah.
nasty, so clean.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for this Austria-Turkey game, but I think Austria's going
Mm-hmm.
to do it. England versus Slovakia. I expect England to win this. They've been underperforming, but I expect Austria or England to beat Slovakia. And then Switzerland, Italy, I think will be another really great game.
Mm-hmm.
I think both teams are pretty solid. Italy, I don't really know what to make of them at the moment, honestly. But I love
Mm-hmm.
Switzerland. I love that team. They've been my dark horse shout since the beginning, so I'm picking Switzerland to win that game.
Nice.
That's my first round picks. Over to you, Tochi.
Nice. I like that. I like that. I like your picks. Here are my picks for the first round of the knockout stages of the Euros. We're going to start from where you did. So, talking about Spain, Georgia. don't need to spend too much time there. Georgia, great story that they got there, but I think Spain's going to handle them pretty easily. Germany, Denmark, that's going to be, I think, probably a good game. I think Denmark will definitely give Germany some problems. If Denmark has their day, they can definitely go on and win that. But if I was a betting man, I would have to go with Germany. I think they've looked really strong, and I trust Nagelsmann to put out a good tactical performance and see them through the next round. Portugal versus Slovenia. Again, Portugal, at times they looked like they weren't amazing, especially today against Georgia, but those were their second string players. And so I think with all their starters back, I expect Portugal to handle that game. Maybe not blow them out, but still get through the next round. France, Belgium, that's going to be a really interesting one. I don't think Belgium is doing a great job at scoring goals, and France seems to be able to defend their goal really well right now. And I think that's what's going to see France go through the next round in that matchup. Moving down to the other side of the bracket, we've got Romania versus Netherlands. Netherlands, the way they've been playing, they're definitely get outable, and Romania seems to have some type of like electricity around the team where like there's a whole lot of passion, play with a lot of fight and a lot of grit. I think if there's any team that could pull off an upset in the first round, it's going to be Romania. And I'll go out on a limb and say Romania upsets Netherlands in the first round. I need to pick one. I feel like not all the favorites can win, so I'm going to have to go out and pick that one.
Nice.
And then Austria versus Turkey. I think that's going to be a great game, like you touched on. But I want to say Austria tactically has looked so good, and they play with such energy that I think that they can go out and get a result against Turkey, move on to the next round. England versus Slovakia. England, as much as they struggled, again, they looked really solid at the back. They're not giving up a whole lot of chances. They just got to figure out how to score goals, and they have too much talent not to figure it out. And then last game, Switzerland versus Italy. This is going to be probably the most even coming into it game of the knockout rounds. And I want to say, there's something about that Italy team that's just so gritty that I think they will end up going through. I think they've just got so much talent in the team. Not that Switzerland doesn't, but there's something about Italy, the Euros, these big tournaments that I think that they could show up and they could give anybody a game. Honestly, they're that kind of team. Like I could see them losing to almost anyone, but I could also see them beating almost anyone just with like the talent they have across the board. So I'm going to pick Italy in this game to move on to the next round. But that wraps up my picks.
If Italy and England both win, there'll be a rematch of the Euro 2020 final.
Wow. Yeah, that'll be an
Second round
electric
game.
matchup, actually. I forgot about that. Yeah. All right. Well, with our first round predictions out of the way, let's just talk some general predictions for the rest of the tournament. Who do you have as your winner?
I'm going to go with Spain as my winner. I think they look the best this tournament. They're on the tough side of the bracket, so it's hard to pick them. I was between them and France, but I'm going to pick Spain to beat France in the semifinals and Spain to win it all. And probably
All
beat
right.
England in the final.
Yeah, I agree. I think looking ahead to the rest of the Euros, I think my winner is going to be England. I think I've touched on this a few times already, but I think England is very solid defensively. They're not giving up a whole lot of chances, and they're on the easier side of the bracket. They have so much talent that I feel like things are just bound to click unless Southgate is self-sabotaging at this point. So I think they will figure out some of the tactical balance and whatnot that's missing from the team. And with the route that they have to the final, I think it just makes the most sense that they can get there a little bit easier to the final. And then I think they'll probably come up against Spain or France on the other side. But I just think it's their time. I think it's coming home.
Nice. Who is your dark horse pick for the rest of the tournament?
My dark horse pick? That's a good question. My dark horse pick for the rest of the Euros, I'm going to go with two teams. I'm going to go with Austria and I'm going to go with Italy, kind of for similar reasons. I think they're both two teams that can cause a lot of problems for their opposition. Austria, more underratedly, I think Ragnick just has them playing a really good style of football where they're pressing high, they press with energy, and they can like really can impose their own control on the match in a way that like you see teams do in club football, but not so much in international play. And so that combined with them being on the weaker side of the bracket, I could see them making a run. I think if they can get out of the first round, they can beat just about anybody and make their way to the final. So those are going to be my two dark horses. Who are yours?
Nice. I see where you're coming from with the Italy one, but I'm going to go directly oppose that and keep with my earlier shout from the last podcast. I think with Switzerland. So nice little matchup there in the first round of the knockouts between Switzerland and Italy. But I love what I've been seeing from Switzerland, and they're on the easier side of the
Mm-hmm.
bracket. It'll be a tough second round game against England most likely, but I just love what I see from Switzerland. So I'm sticking with my Swiss boys and Xhaka.
Nice.
So let's do some updates to our best player or golden ball, young player of the tournament, and golden boot shouts. Who are your updated shouts for these awards?
I think for me in the Euros moving forward, these are going to be players to watch out for. So starting with my best overall player, I would go with I think Rodri is going to be an inevitable shout because he's going to be playing for Spain. I think Spain makes a deep run. If they make it to the final and eventually win, I think I see him being a really important cog in that team. And if not Rodri, I would also look at Harry Kane or Kylian Mbappe. I think France, England, Spain are like probably the three favorites for me to make it to the final. And those are going to be the best players on those teams. I thought Jude Bellingham was going to emerge as the best player on England, and I think that's still very possible. But for me, right now, he seems like he's having to sacrifice a little bit to account for the rest of the squad dynamics. And so, for that reason, I could see Harry Kane getting a little bit more of the plaudits for England's run if they do end up making a deep run. He's going to be the main goal scorer, and so Harry Kane is going to be my shout for one of my shouts for best player, and then also my shout for the Golden Boot alongside Mbappe. I think those two are going to go hand in hand, just depending on which team can end up winning the tournament.
Okay. My best player of the tournament is going to be very dependent on who makes it far. Because I picked Spain to win it all, I'm going to go with Fabian Ruiz in central midfield. He's looked really
That's a
strong through
great
the
shout.
first couple games. He's scored a really cracking goal in the first game as well. And if Spain's going to win it all, I think he might sneak in there kind of as a underrated player that might help Spain lift the trophy.
I love the Fabian Ruiz shout. I think he's looked like Spain's, in my opinion, best player in the first games that I've seen. I mean, his goal in the first match and then his assist as well to Morata for the first goal that they scored in the tournament were both really good. But in general, he just looks like he's perfect for whatever this role is that I think it's De La Fuente has him playing in this Spanish team. So I think that's a great shout.
Nice. And my rogue shout for player of the tournament is Sabitzer from Austria. I think Austria have a really easy
Nice.
run to the semifinals. If they can presumably beat England in the semifinals to make the finals, I think Sabitzer is going to have a really big hand in that and then making it that far. And so my rogue player of the tournament pick is going to be Sabitzer.
I think that's a great shout. Going back to Ragnick having these guys like super locked in and all rowing in the same direction. I think Sabitzer is a big reason for that.
Who is your young player pick for the rest of the tournament?
Yeah. My young player is going to stay the same as I left it in the last pod. It is going to be my number one pick is going to be Lamine Yamal. I'm all in on him. I think he's going to be electric come the knockout stages, and I think he's going to really, really put the world on notice. Like I think a lot of people know of him already, obviously, but I think this is the stage where he's going to really announce himself. And then also I'm going to keep Jamal Musiala in there as well. I think it just depends on which team makes the deeper run, who's going to get the most plaudits, because Germany will play Spain in the next round if they both end up advancing. But those are going to be my two young players of the tournament. What about you?
I'm gonna have to agree. Musiala was my pick in the last podcast, and Yamal was also. I think I mentioned him, but they definitely look like the two best young players. Whichever team goes further, I expect one of them to win young player. They both look phenomenal.
Gotcha. And then for me, Golden, I already touched on this again, but I'll just reiterate. I want to say Mbappe or Harry Kane, just depending on whose team makes the deepest run in the tournament.
Yep, that's a good shout. I'm gonna have to go with This is a tough one, actually. I I've written down Fullkrug in my notes, but now that after I've been talking, I've been shouting Spain to make it to win it all, which would mean Germany would have to lose in the second round, so that doesn't make much sense. So I'm gonna have to go
Fair enough.
with
The math is
Harry
mathing.
Kane. The math is math. I'm gonna go with Harry Kane. Just assuming England make it to the final, and they're gonna have to rely on him. He's a big game player.
Gotcha. Nice. Nice. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on before we get out of here was they may not be the best player in the tournament, but other players to watch out for. You already touched on him, but Marcel Sabitzer for me is one player to watch out for. I think he's going to have a big impact with Austria. And then Nico Williams, he's on the other side, the other flank, and the Spain team from Lamine Yamal. I think Lamine Yamal is going to get a lot of the hype, but Nico Williams is someone that's going to play a pivotal role on the Spanish team if they end up making a deep run. He looked really, really good in their second group stage game. I believe he ended up getting man of the match, and he looked electric. And I think he's another young player that's going to be important to watch out for in Europe in general this summer. He claims he's happy at Athletic Bilbao, but a lot of top teams are going to be looking at him. And this might be where he puts even more teams on notice about his talent. And then couple more shout outs there. I think Bruno Fernandes could have a great tournament. I think he came into this tournament in blazing hot form, and it seems like I don't know how his stats look right now in the Euros, but just eye test watching him in the Portugal matches, he looks like probably their most important player. I think without him today, they lacked a lot of creativity and a lot of cutting edge. I think he's someone that's going to make a really big difference. To if he plays well, Portugal can go far. If he does not, I think they will end pretty early. I think he's going to be a major cog. And then you already mentioned Fabian Ruiz, so I'll end it there.
Very nice. Those are great calls. Some of my players to watch out for. The first one I'm going to pick is William Saliba for France. Even though he's already a well-known player, I thought he's looked phenomenal. He's a Rolls Royce of a player, and I think it's preposterous that Didier Deschamps was even joking or talking about not starting him. Saliba has looked really solid in the back, and I think he's the best center back in the world, if not soon to be. Um, Another player I'm going to pick is Remo Freuler. I mentioned him already, but he's been really solid in midfield, sitting next to Granit Xhaka. He's had one or two really nice assists and has really helped Switzerland make the run that they've made. My third player to watch out for is Donnarumma in goal for Italy. I thought Donnarumma's been really, really good, really solid in goal, made some crazy saves, and a big reason why Italy has looked as solid defensively as they have. He did concede against Croatia, but he had that nice penalty save. And goalkeepers don't get enough love, but Donnarumma has been really good for Italy. Those are my players to look out for the rest of the tournament.
Nice. I like all of those shouts, especially Saliba. I think I agree with you. The guy is already the best or one of the best and going to be the best, if not like just always considered in that most elite echelon of center backs in the world. I still don't think he gets enough love for what he does for Arsenal. And so I think that's a great shout out. And then Donnarumma as well. He kind of announced his coming out party was kind of the last Euros, and I think he's been super solid again this Euros and could be a really important player for Italy moving forward. So I really like those picks.
Yeah, and Donnarumma is only 25. Looks like he's, especially for a goalkeeper, that's very young. He's been around for so long. To be at 25, to be
Hmm.
as experienced and solid as he is, he's got probably like 10 more years left, which is nuts because he's already so experienced and so good.
Yeah. Yeah, Bailey, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. He texted me asking or saying Vicario is going to take that spot from Donnarumma eventually, but I don't think so. I think Donnaruma's got that spot locked for a while.
Ice cold take from Bali.
I'll wrap up here soon because my phone is on 5%. Um, that's our predictions going into the knockout stages. I appreciate you guys joining, talking the Euros with us. Just a quick shout out. I want to say look out for the Let's Talk Ball official page coming soon. We're going to try and make a page officially for that outside of Coach Talks Ball, which is where I've been posting for now. And then If you're listening and don't already follow Coach Talks Ball on all platforms, please do. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram and YouTube. So check out other content there that's just outside of the podcast. And then in general, thank you for everyone that has tuned in and showed some love. I think we kind of dropped the podcast last week, and I received a lot of love in the DMs and text messages and whatnot from people that have tuned in and appreciated the content, and I appreciate you for that. You have anything else, Ben?
No, just like to reiterate your words of thanks to everyone that's tuned in. Just kind of stuff that we started just for fun. Don't really know where it's gonna go, but it's been a lot of fun so far. Only on our third episode, so hopefully this will be something that we can keep doing. And yeah, thanks to everyone who's tuned in.
Alrighty, we'll wrap it up there, and let's see how these first games go. We'll see you guys after the first round.